Hi class, we have our project so close, right? Still just canceling on this Career Center issue. So let's try and do some debugging. We've got the revised DLL referenced in our project. We have our Career Center class, Legacy DLL, and our graduate class, Legacy DLL. And hopefully let's make sure that we're looking at that updated one. I'm going to click Properties. Oh, that's not what I want to do, right? Let's look at the object in the object browser. And I want to look at the graduate class in the object browser, see if we see any difference. Now in our graduate, of course, we have more constructors. In our Career Center, we have our 2 constructors. Everything looks good. Can't tell any problems there. We've updated that reference. So I'm going to set up the debugger. Whenever we've used the debugger so far in the past, as we've worked with classes, we've gotten a warning message telling us that we were skipping some things. So let's go take care of that problem. I'm going to use the Tools Options menu, and then in my options, I'm going to find my debugging category. In the debugging category, we want to find this step over properties and operators. And let's uncheck that. We do not want to step over those. We want to see them. We want to execute them. So I'm going to uncheck that and click OK. Now I want to set a breakpoint here at, I think, this last graduate student so we can see how it's operating. With our breakpoint inserted, I'm going to run the application. Remember, this is in our form load, so we should be able to see how everything is executing before we ever even see the form. When I start, our breakpoint hits immediately. I'm going to step into. This first statement that we're going to execute is creating an instant of our graduate class. Here's our graduate class, and we see the first thing that it hits on in our graduate class is the constructor for the graduate class's base. And sure enough, it goes to execute the constructor in the student class. We'll keep stepping. Notice that we're being able to see this source code in the debugger, even though we have included these DLLs. Now I'm continuing and I see that it built the instance of my student. If I look down here in the locals window, I see the variables properly populated. So I'm going to continue stepping into. Now I return back to my graduate class because I have created an instance of the parent. So now I can create an instance of this derived class. I will do that, set up our class fields for this derived class. And then we should be able to see in our this locals that we have our complete built information for all of our different class fields and properties for our graduate. So that completes execution of that line of code. Now let's step on into our first Career Center object. And again, we see that it's hitting our constructor right away, and it's going to the base class, but for some reason it's using our NoArg constructor that doesn't include any data. If I continue stepping into, we'll see that it somehow is not really handling this properly at all. It's acting as though our Career Center constructor is still not correct. So I'm going to stop execution. And I think I want to go to the folder view. And in our folder view, I'm going to oops. Let's see, I'll expand my properties and I'm not seeing my resources. So let me go back to my solution. And here on our references, I'm going to remove them both. And then I'm going to go to our folder for our project. Open folder in File Explorer. Go into our bin, debug, and I want to delete these DLLs. Our Career Center class legacy, graduate class legacy, and student class legacy. I want to delete all 3 of those DLLs because I want to validate that I'm getting the newest version. Now I'm going to do the add reference again, and I'm going to browse and choose Career Center Legacy, which is, look at that, it's still not my right one because remember it was 120 when I created that. So I'm going to go to my folder, File Explorer, and go to my project folder. And I want my Career Center class. Bin, debug. And I want this DLL that was rebuilt at 128. There that thing is. So I'm going to copy it and go back to my DLL library and paste it. Yes, replace that thing. Now I finally have that revised version. You can see that sometimes it can be difficult to revise our references. Now that got rid of our errors. Let's see if it got rid of our runtime error. Voila, finally, our Career Center students showing up. So an error in our class definition for our Career Center students in our constructor caused some problems on down the line. And sometimes it's really beneficial for us to use the online debugger to fix those kinds of things. So let's finish our application then. I believe that we're ready. What we want to do now is have some student information display down here at the bottom of the screen if we click on an item. First of all, I think that this heading should probably disappear. So let's go to our form and check that label. I'm going to give it a name, LBL heading, and let's also set its visible property to false. Now when we run our application, that should not be showing until we want it to show. And we want it to show when somebody double or clicks on an item in our list box. So to add our event procedure, I'm going to double click on that list box and get our selected index changed method. Now I want to go ahead and make that label heading visible. And then we had set up another label, LBL result, and we're going to begin building it. So I'm going to initialize it to an empty value. Now if, again, Hmm. They have an interesting way of doing it in the sample code that I'm looking at. Let me see what we want to do. What they're doing is checking this combo box selected index again to see which type of student has been selected. And then from that, they are determining how to handle that list. So we can do that same thing. Let's copy our code here. I'm going to start with if our selected index is equal to 1. In that case, if we look at our code here, we are working with Career Center people. So we'll start up a for each loop, and we'll say that for each Career Center type object that we'll call student in our career array, if the student that we just pulled out of the array ID equals the list box selected item. Remember, that's a text property. That means that we've got the right one, the one they clicked on, so we can display information about this student. We'll set our result label, text property, equal to this student toString. Now remember, we're just outputting their name in our toString method, so that'll be what we'll see. Now if our selected index equals 0, then we're processing our graduate students. So for each of those, we want to again check to see if this student ID equals the one they selected. And if so, oops, sorry, too many there. If so, we'll set up our result. Now that should fix up our project, get it all working. I'll pick Career Center students, and that's giving me the information about that Career Center student. My graduate students, I'm getting my graduate student information. Looks like it's all working. Oh, I have a little too many things here, don't I? Let's stop this. And if our selected index changes on our combo box, let's clear it. Before we start, so that we don't get things doubled up. Oops, cleared the wrong thing there, didn't I? It's our student list box, right? There we go. Career Center students. Good. Now everything looks nice and clean. We're not getting all of that doubling and tripling up. Great job. It took us a bit, didn't it? Because this is a very advanced application. We've kept all of our C# business logic as DLLs in our project. We've created a separate project for our front end GUI application, our user experience. We will eventually implement our back end, which could be a database, but at this point in our development, we emulated that back end by creating some hard-coded class object items so that we could do some testing. So everything looks great. If you're having any trouble with your project, let me know if you need some assistance and we'll get everything resolved. Thank you.